Good afternoon, all. Happy Sunday. What can we say? The weather's been fantastic today, hasn't it? We had a bit of a wet day yesterday, but today's been really good. So what we were supposed to actually have a bit of rain today. So it looks like it's dropped back till tomorrow now. And our highest rainfall is going to be on Tuesday. So we'll let everyone come in. Hope everyone's had a good weekend. We've had a really good weekend. Saturday we had just a bit of a quiet day Saturday, just because it was raining. This morning we had football with Travis, and which was great because we were expecting to get wet today, so it's good to be nice and dry. And yeah, we just had a bit of a lazy afternoon, so it's been quite a good relaxing weekend. So feel free to come in, say hi. Any early questions, you can always bring those up as well. I'm just getting all my weather charts brought up, ready to go. So yeah, we have a bit of rain coming tomorrow. So tomorrow afternoon looks like we're going to have a bit of rain. It's going to start tomorrow, got 2 to 6 mil, and then Tuesday looks like it's going to be our wet day, so 25 to 35 mil. So going to be a wet one on Tuesday, and even Wednesday 10 to 15 mil. But it looks like only really 3 days, so I'm not going to argue with that. That's pretty good. Yeah. Hey Peter, hey Dan, how you going? How's your weekends been? So yeah, we're not having that full week of rain, which is fantastic. Looks like the end of the week's going to be great again too. But temperatures, yeah, we've been quite warm. Today's been quite warm. I'm still in a jumper. It's cooling down this afternoon. But last Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday were absolutely fantastic weather-wise. It was, yeah, great soaking out, getting out in the sun and soaking that up. And, yeah, it kind of gave us a good feeling of spring was coming. Hey, Craig, how you going? Yeah, I remember you working on the mowers today. Hey, Dan. Didn't get a chance to do that yesterday, did you? Or were you working yesterday? Just gonna change that camera a little bit. It looks a bit tilted. How's that? Okay, that's better. But no, the weather has been fantastic, and I started doing my soil testing. So in August, I'd start doing my soil testing, and that's kind of where we'll start with today's chat. Is we'll talk on soil testing and like soil temperatures. So generally, when you hear me talk about soil temperatures, I try and aim for, like, I talk about everything really starts activating when the soil temperatures hit about 17 degrees. Now, what happens is when it gets cooler, your soil microbes have become less active, and it's your soil microbes that will break down a granular fertilizer. So when they're not as active, the breakdown is a little bit slower, and then that means the uptake is a little bit slower as well. And same with lawn. We know with lawn, when it goes through photosynthesis, lots of sun, lots of energy, lots of sugars coming through that lawn, it likes to feed and it'll draw on those nutrients. So when it's a little bit colder, it draws on it a little bit less, meaning the take up is a little bit lower, and that's why we kind of go to a foliar fertilizer to help with that consistency. And the same with a granular fertilizer, which is broken down with water. So, oh, got Nat's bringing me in a coffee. Thank you, Natalie. She doesn't want to go on camera. Okay. So yeah, anything that we do microbe related over winter, we kind of keep to a minimum just because of being less active, and especially like with nitrogen. So microbes will take like sulfate of ammonium and turn it into nitrate. So they'll break it down and they'll take it to nitrate, which is the available form for lawn to take up. So they convert that form to nitrate for the lawn to take up. Whereas there's a few fertilizers out there that are more pure nitrate, which is already broken down and just needs to be activated with water. Yeah, Craig, I know, that's right. So that's why I thought I'd talk a bit about soil temperatures. So I turned around and like every year from probably about August, I start testing my soils because we already know that the soil temperatures are going to drop and we already have our winter plan. But I like to map out when our soil temperatures start changing from August to know when our renovation period is going to start. And as we get warmer, as the soil temps rise, those microbes start becoming more active. Now you can probably start using a granular fertilizer at full rate, probably from about 15 degrees soil temperatures. And just remember, with soil temperatures to ambient temperature, it's a big difference. There's so much insulation in the soil itself, so the soil actually, to change the soil temperature takes a lot longer than what it would just obviously ambient temperature. So that's the good thing about soil, is just it does hold that temperature at the same level for a long period, and it takes a while to change. Kind of when you see like in the middle of Australia, they live in the dirt because it's a little bit more better insulated and they can keep that cooler temperature down there. So I like to try and get a guide on how many degrees each week the soil's starting to raise, and that can kind of give me a little bit of an idea on when the optimum time to renovate a lawn will be. When we renovate, I kind of like to be at that higher level because the recovery is a lot faster when the soil temp's higher. So this week, I missed last week, and I was a bit sick the other week, so I didn't get out, and because it was all wet, I didn't really want to risk it. But I retested the soil temps this year, and in the shaded parts, I think it was just over 10 degrees we had, and in the warmer part, I had 12.5, which is well and truly on the way. Last year, I can remember in the sunny part last year, I had 10 degrees. I had it written down here, which I'm just going to look. So last year in the sunny part was 10 degrees. It's gone now. But I'll start testing every week now, just so we can start getting a gauge on when. And I feel like already now we're gonna probably have ourselves a bit of a good spring. So we're gonna be on time for spring. So last year when I was testing, I was recording at 9 degrees in our cooler areas, and it was 10.5 in the warmer area. This year already at this time, compared to last year, I got 10.5 degrees and 12.5 degrees. So we could already see in that sunny area with a lot of sun and just being warmer, it's already starting to rise. And we'll find that will increase each week. And I'll go through and do that testing every week. There is other ways you can test if you want to. I always put the post this up as well, but the Bureau has soil temperatures as well through this link here, if that link works. I'll get someone to test that link as well, just to make sure if they're on a computer, just to see how it goes. But it seems like it's worked. So that one here has the W observations, and the Perth airport will record their temperatures. I like to mention whether I'm in the sun or if I'm in the shadow as well, because there is a big difference. As I said, we had 10.5 degrees in the cooler spot, where basically our tree is covering that area most of the day, and then a part where the sun is out all the time. And this can relate to a front yard and backyard as well. So the backyard is generally cooler than what the front yard is, and we'll see the front yard will pick up a little bit sooner than what the backyard will be. And in Perth at the airport, they do the soil temperatures there. And actually, that's the observations. Hang on. Try this link. Sorry, my fault. That's two great links there anyway. So Perth Airport, they recorded 11.1 degrees at 5 centimeters down, and 10.8 at 10 centimeters down. So that's the kind of two ranges that we go on. So that first 5 centimeters is going to be a little bit warmer because it has that direct sunlight, and then a little bit deeper is going to be a bit cooler. And you can actually go deeper and it'll be a little bit higher as well, because like I said, that insulation in the soil can hold a warmer temperature as well. It kind of stays more stable throughout the whole year. And that's a great website to look at even in summer, to see how that varies and changes compared to the higher temperatures will be at the top and the lower temperatures down low. So it's quite interesting looking into all that kind of the temperatures. Stephen, yeah, white with one. Yeah, that's all I've got. White with one. These we have the espresso machine there. I asked for a cappuccino, but yeah, I've got white with one. So I'll take what I can get. I didn't make it myself this time. When do you think my palmetto will start growing? Has not really grown a lot since May. So we generally find that your cooch, your kaikui, flowers, all that kind of stuff starts a little bit earlier. Your palmetto or your buffaloes, some, especially in the front yard, I have had a couple of reports of a few lawns that have started taking off already. But I find that with buffalo, it takes a little bit longer for it to all to start activating and start get going again. So with cooch and kaikui already taking off, you'll probably find that it will start to take off soon. And especially like now we've had a great day today. We've got a couple of days of rain coming from Tuesday, Wednesday, and then hopefully the end of the week again, we'll start to see some consistent weather. The long range forecast, which I have on my phone, is going to be, let's have a look. But I'll start using a granular. Basically, once we get to about 14, 15 degrees, I'll start using a granular fertilizer again at full rate, just because start to get it in the soil and it's ready there to go. So from this weekend, it looks like the long range forecast is showing that we're going to have a good 8 days worth of decent weather. And then it's going to be raining again. Well, this is what they're reporting, raining again on the 28th that weekend there. So I'd say it'll take probably till about early spring, so September. So this is where I talk about that time for take those temperatures to rise. We might not see 14, 15 degrees until September. But I'll probably put my first granular out on September. That first week of September, I'll be getting it going. So I think it's going to be close enough to that. Then to get closer to the 17-degree mark, we don't find it actually happens until about October. And I'm just having a quick look at Dan's, because Dan's going to be in here today having a bit of a chat to Renos as well and bringing up a few questions in case I miss it. So Mr. Reno King here. Yeah, so there you go. You'll find that it will probably take about October where it'll really start kicking into gear. But once those first freeds come through in September, you'll actually notice a bit of a difference. I take a couple of spots, Craig. Yeah, so I go through. I'll probably go in all different parts, and they are pretty similar. So I'll do a couple of shaded areas, and like this is similar to like a 0.2 of a degree. So I'll try and find at first when I do it, I'll find the spot where I feel like it's going to be the coolest, and I normally do a scan. I'll show you my. I have got, so it's an infrared scanner, but then we also can plug a probe into it as well. So that probe goes down to about 20 centimeters. So I'll go through and I'll go do like a 5 center reading, and then I'll push it down to the 10, and then we also at the 20. I only go down to about 10 centimeters because the root system in lawns only the strongest is only up to 10 centimeters, so I don't really tend to push it all the way down because I don't find there's really a need for that. But I'll go through and I'll test a heap of different areas. Because I've got it out, it's easy. So I'll go through and I'll scan do the heat rater on the grass to find where the hottest spot is, and I'll test that spot. And then I'll find the coldest spot and I'll test that spot, and I'll try and find an average as well. Interesting question, Adam. So you'll find a lawn type. Now, so like one for buffalo and but find that most fertilizers will work for any type of lawn. We kind of go for different situations. So when we're choosing a fertilizer, we'll always choose the condition of the lawn. So if you need of a like if you've got a very patchy lawn that needs a lot of thickening out and spreading again, we'll go for something a little bit higher phosphorus, and it's a little bit. And then we change for prill size. So mini prill for something that's very low cut, and it can be a normal prill for a buffalo kaiku where the prill will sink through and won't be affected by sitting on top of the turf. So we just basically go on condition of the turf itself rather than this fertilizer specific for this lawn and this fertilizer specific for that lawn, because we find that there's very minimal difference between the fertilizers that have any effect for a specific lawn. Even something we can go through potassium and lower the sulfur content because there's a lot of salt in the air already, and the rain that comes through there that it can be real salty. So that's probably the only things that we do change. But with fertilizer type, we kind of just go through and go, okay, the fertilizer type generally works for most lawns. You know what, Peter? I actually haven't, again, so actually I really should do this all year round. I should do a weekly, probably weekly. I'll try and do a weekly. I might start from this week, after last week's thing. I'll go through in different areas and I'll do a kind of a weekly soil temp update, and I might put a link on my website just so people can reflect and go, okay, this is what the soil temps are at. Because I tend to stop once October hits. Once I hit that 17 degrees, I kind of stop, and then I'll wait until winter again. So I think I might start mapping it all year round, and at least we can have some statistics. We can go relate back to what last year's was. Like, I could already have my winter from last year, but at least we can map it all year round. Because, and this will go back on the renovation side of things, you'll find like in November, if you renovate your lawn in November, you could have your lawn back, like this is Verti Mowing, taking it back to dirt. You could have back in full coverage in 2 weeks, just like that. Because the soil temperature's at that right prime spot, the lawn just goes crazy once it's renovated. And Dan will know, we've had jobs where, say, we've renovated it, put out a good fertilizer, and it's back pretty much within 2 weeks. You've nearly got full coverage again. So yeah, I will start doing that. I'll start doing a weekly soil test. I'm just trying to think. I might try and do it Thursdays, because we try and do. I know we haven't had a Thursday live stream for a couple of weeks. Everything seems to get in the way. I will do it on Thursday for that fact that Thursday night, going, hey, I tested my soils today. And we can start off with that. So I think that's a really good idea. I'll think about that through the week. I'll try and work out a table of what our temperatures are, rain, and soil temps, kind of a bit like what the graph they do of what we had here, and I'll try and do a weekly observation, and then we can kind of map out our plans on how it relates to last year and how we can prepare for spring. So I definitely feel this year, if we go the way we are now, and the rain's okay, that's what we still want, rain. But as long as we're still getting those warm temperatures, I feel like spring is going to start in September this year, and we're all ready to go. Now, So that's the soil temps, and if you've got any other questions on soil temps, please feel free to ask. Yeah, and we can fill in. And Dan just put up a great question, as great mental blank. A great observation as well is that height of cut certainly does change soil temps as well. So with a thicker buffalo, even thatch can really affect the soil temps as well. So yeah, that's yeah, great point. On the renovation side of things, who's prepared? Who's ready? Who's got something booked in, ready to go? I made note on an earlier video that I did my renovation in April. Because I get a lot of fungal disease in my lawn, I did a late verti mow, got rid of all my thatch ready for winter, and I've basically got no thatch. We're going to do a bit of a, one day on my next mow, we're going to do a bit of a deep mow and just see if anything came up over winter, but I don't think it is. I don't think we've had the growth for that. So I won't probably do a renovation until April again next year. I might do a while you're posting that up. Let's have a bit of a talk of reno types. So we've got some basic renovations as well. So we'll talk about a few different types. So this time of the year over winter, we'll do aeration for helping with drainage. So if you find you might have soft soil, but the water's not draining right. So by using, say, a spike tine, we can help push that water down into the soil. So you got winter aeration, and that's the kind of way we'll go for winter. And then you got the summer aeration, or spring-summer, I should say. And this is just to relieve compaction in the soil, open up the soil canopy. And this is a good one to do if your soil is hydrophobic as well. So we talk about hydrophobic soil is where organic matter it excretes a wax coating when it's broken down, and that wax will coat the sand particles, and it's generally on top of that soil canopy that you get this wax. You can break down this wax by using a wetting agent, and that will sit there on top and it'll break down the wax layer, and then it'll soak in. With aerating, you can have those holes taken out and then apply the wetting agent, and that will basically allow the wetting agent to work at different angles and be more effective. Relieve compaction. So we use the tines that take a core out, and it's the same, we can use that with the hydrophobic soil too. We'll take the cores out, and if it's compacted, when we take the soil out, the sides of the core hole will break away and slowly relieve that compaction in that way. So you take the core out, and which is removing the sand, and then the sides break away, loosening the soil around it. And this is kind of where a lot of holes do make a big with depth as well. So there's different ways to think about it. So you can go really deep, and you'll have that more of a it might be deep, but the holes are filled back in again. And or you can punch lots of holes, and that will spread. So we're trying to aim to get to that, obviously that depth to close to that 10 centimeter mark, where we find that root system's the strongest. So anywhere to between 5 and 10 centimeters is fantastic. So when we aerate and we core, we try and make most of those holes being open. And that's, again, where we add our wetting agents, we add our seaweeds and humic acids. And it's a great opportunity to make the most of it by if your holes itself as well. So when I do my plans and we talk to customers and we're like, okay, let's have a look at your soil type, and they pull it out and it's really sandy. Well, by having that aeration done and filling those holes with organic matter and a light organic matter over the top just makes it more effective in getting organic matter into the soil. Is you're only creating a layer on top, and it doesn't always feed through. So having the aeration and allowing the organic matter to go into the holes is absolutely a great idea. we find we'll go. I'm going to talk about grooming next. I want to touch base on top dressing at the end as well, because I think this is very important as well. And we found this quite a few times now with a few customers, as well as black layering. And I'll talk about that a bit more. So feel free to ask any questions on any aeration as well, or any of the topics. If I've missed something, please bring it up, because yeah, I've got dot points, but I do miss things sometimes, so it's always good to bring them up. Hey Stephen, how you going? Good beginning of winter. I'll do a heavy groom end of August and drop height. Yeah, that's a good idea, Mark. Yeah, that's the way I'd do it as well. So that fantastic there. The next renovation, same thing. So I'm going to go from less harsh to harsh. Is we got grooming. Now, grooming is a process where you use the vertical cutting blades like you would with a Verti mower. But we don't go into the soil canopy. We basically just keep above the soil canopy. It cleans up all the light thatch that's in that, like above the soil canopy. And it's fantastic for buffalo as well. So you got all the porpoising runners that go across the top of the buffalo. A groomer will just go through and clean that all up nicely, and it'll give you a nice finish again. So it's looking quite clean without those porpoising runners. We'll only really groom. Don't always need a Vertimo every year, and I'll talk about why in a minute, but you can use a groomer in between Vertimos just to tidy it up, because we'll find, especially with low cut turf, so just by grooming it and cleaning that canopy again, just tidies everything up, and it hides that brown thatch that we can see when we cut, just to get rid of the porpoising, and also just to tidy up a little bit of thatch that's on top if you don't have that thatch in the soil profile itself. And this is a great thing to check, and that's what we'll get onto. So taking that thatch from the top, you can do it with the groomer. The other option we hear commonly is by scalping, and that's by dropping your rotary lawnmower, and you can do it on the cylinder as well, but I would avoid doing it with the cylinder because it'll blunt the blades really, really quick. So this is by just mowing as low as possible, and we can do this same thing. It's the same principle. So say if you're cutting with a rotary itself, and you're starting to see that browning of the thatch come through, you can drop your mower 2 or 3 notches to go for a really low mow, and then bring it back up to that another 2 notches where you had it before, and you will get rid of effectively that thatch there. That won't be noticeable anymore. I don't always I don't recommend scalping. I find that it isn't as effective as what grooming will be, but it's an option that is there that can be done as well. It's mainly for the higher cut lawns. So if you've only got a lawn where you're only cutting 10 mil, to get a rotary mower on it belly down, you're not going to really get down low enough to have any of effect. So that's where we'll use grooming for something that's 10 mil. Anything higher, the rotary scalp will work as well, but you're still keeping that thatch that's just above the soil canopy as well. So that's the two there. There's 2 options, and they both do work. As I said, one I'll do for a lower cut, one will do for a higher cut. And we've all noticed that before when we do mow a lawn and you go finish and you look and go, oh, it's a little bit brown there, and it just needs a tidy up. Then we come on to Verti mowing. And this, to gauge whether you need Verti mowing or if you can get away with grooming or scalping, take a core sample. There's a couple of different options, and basically there's let's have a look. I'll pull this out. So this here, I've got all my tools here today, is my soil profiler. So I'll push that into the ground, and I'll take out a good core. And in that core, I'll be able to see the layering of the soil. So it can be different organics and just sand, and the black layer, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But it also allows me to see how much thatch is in the soil itself. So I'll try and Dan's going to do me a favor this year, because my lawn isn't that thatchy underneath. We're going to try and Dan's got one of these as well, so we're going to try and find a really heavily matted thatched lawn that has that layer in the soil. We will take a photo of, just so we can show how much thatch can be in the soil profile itself. So you might look on top and there's not much there, but in the soil it can really build up this mat. And this is a good way to gauge whether you're due for verti mowing or not. If you take that profile, and it doesn't have to be something fancy like that, you can also get a, say, 50 ml PVC tube from the Big Green Shed or your local agricultural store that's got the 50 ml PVC, and push that down, hammer it down with a rubber mallet. Just take it about say 10 centimeters down. You can go further. So if you go further, you can take it out, visualize take a visual idea of how the profile looks, and then you can also wet it and get rid of all the soil and see how far your root system is going down as well. But our main goal is to just see how much thatch is actually in the soil profile itself, and you might only have a little bit, you might have a lot, but this will help determine whether you need verti mowing or you could get away with it for another season. And with going back on the grooming and scalping, you've felt sometimes you feel the sponginess in your feet when you're walking over, and you look down and go, oh, there's a little bit of thatch on my lawn. And you go through and scalp it, but it's still there. Well, that's the mat in the soil that's creating that sponginess rather than on top. So you'll be quite surprised how soft that thatch in the soil can make you feel underfoot. What kind of soil test, Mark? Just like to find nutrients, or just to find the profile? Like, you can buy soil profilers as well, but I think that one cost me $200, so it wasn't cheap. So I have seen a few people make it with the PVC. I'll see if I can find that again and see if we can get a few made up or something like that. But it's very important to look at your soil. Even the other option is to get a shovel, and it's not nice digging into your lawn, but you can make it very clean. So if you do like a 4-side dig and take a square out, put it on its side, have a look, and then push it back in, you won't have any issues, and you'll barely even notice that you've taken it out once you've done. So I find it's very important, not always to just go, I need verti mowing every year, to actually look into that and actually see whether you do need it or it's going to be okay for another season. Lawns like Cooch and Kaikui, though, can build it up quite quick. So generally, if we're looking after our lawn to the point we are, the thatch builds up a lot quicker. Products like Plant Growth Regulator, they can help with managing thatch, because you're just slowing down the growth a little bit. But yeah, generally you find Cooch and Kaikui just about doing a verti mow every year. I have got a couple of contacts. It's something I'm going to look into a bit more this year, so leave that with me. I have had a contact before, but the hard part is it started getting expensive as well, and even for myself, it become a bit of an issue getting the testing done. I wasn't getting the results back I wanted to get back fast enough, so I have been looking into it, and also want to look into tissue, like the leaf tissue testing as well. So that's an interesting thing, because you can test the soil and you can get your organic matter, clay content, and what nutrients are in the soil, but it's sometimes harder to find out what's actually available in the soil itself. When you can do testing in the leaf, and you can test what nutrients are in the leaf at that point of time, and that can show you if it's deficient in anything and what needs to be added. And if you are deficient, well, then that's where you can heavily rely on something like humic acid, which helps unlock tied up nutrients in the soil. So if you're deficient in the lawn itself, so in the leaf, but your soil test comes back saying, oh no, you got lots of nitrogen in your soil, but there's not enough in the leaf, well, we know there's a tied up nutrient. There's something tied up in the soil that's not releasing these nutrients, and that's where you can rely on humic acid. And that's why, talking about a little bit last week of how important I find humic acid is for our turf growth, any growing in the garden as well, is that it helps unlock tied up nutrients in the soil. So, yeah, with the Verti Mowing, that's how I'll gauge it. And we, again, soil temperatures, when we can get that optimum soil temperature. So if we go for an early Verti Mow, and as people who work in the industry, we tend to Verti Mow in August. I think, thanks, Dan. Dan, when are you going to Verti Mow your lawn? Are you going to Verti Mow this year? Previous years, with me and Dan, we've Verti Mowed our lawn in August, and our recovery's been about 6 weeks. So it takes a long time. And that 6 weeks is just 6 weeks that we can't go out and enjoy the lawn as much as we want, because it isn't as thick and enjoyable. So when we Verti Mow, we want the recovery to be as fast as possible, because especially in spring, when that weather, like Friday, where the weather's fantastic, it's just nice to be out on the lawn and enjoying it. So you want that downtime to be as minimal as possible. So something like October, November, for a quick recovery is probably the best idea. Even October's probably just at that starting point. In April, when we did my lawn in April, we had coverage within, I think, two or 3 weeks as well, even in the cooler period then, because those soil temps were still high, and taking that slow dip down, we made the most of that. So go through, check your thatch levels, get on early with your Verti Mowing. So make sure, if you haven't booked out your Verti Mowing now, whether you do it yourself or get someone to do it, it's a really good time now to think about planning on booking, because a lot of contractors will book out really quick. It's most Verti Mowing job will take a good half a day. So contractors only doing one a day. If some will do two. I know someone like Joel at PK Turfworks, he'll probably do 3 in a day because he's an absolute machine. But I'll help Dan every now and then, and I'm buggered after one. I'm buggered after half of it, taking catches. It's a tough job. So if you're planning on doing the renovation yourself and Verti Mowing, it is cheaper, yes, but be warned. Have a couple of beers ready for the end of it, because it is hard yakka. And especially if you don't have catches. If you're raking up that thatch, it is tough work. But good fun. It's rewarding. This is probably for recovery of, and we're going to talk about top dressing next. And I can't believe we're already 45 minutes into it. I've already rambled a lot. And again, if you need anything elaborated, please feel free to ask. Nutrition after Verti Mowing, aerating. So aerating, again, we talked about core holes being open. We got seaweed, humic acid, and wetting agents is fantastic to go through. Top dressing, organic top dressing is a fantastic one to put down after aerating. And if you're going for a top dress in a Verti Mow, I generally say, if you're going for an organic top dress, get the lawn aerated at the same time to open those core holes. Verti Mowing will loosen up the soil anyway. So basically, if you've got heavy, hard soil, having a Verti Mow will loosen that soil up anyway. But having the aeration will take those core holes away. Make those core holes, and you're taking the sand away. And then you can put your organic matter into those core holes and a light layer as well. What we have found over the last few years, I've been I used to recommend a really heavy organic mix to go on top, so it was really heavy in compost. And what this was creating was a bit of a black layer, which would break straight down and end up turning anaerobic, which is that hydrophobic layer. There's nothing really nice in it. It just sits there and it's not great. So I've had a few where we've pulled the core out and then there's this big thick black layer. Because it just sits there, it doesn't break down as well and flourish into the soil. So we still need to stick to that 70-30 mix of sand and compost just to ensure that organics breaks down and flows through, but it's not enough to create that black layer itself. And having the core holes just helps it a little bit more. When I do top dress on Verti mowing only, I tend to just say a whitewash sand, because the only reason we will use it is just to level it out. When you Verti mow, you can see the imperfections and the dips. So something like a whitewash sand will just keep that even level, and you won't have any other issues there with black layering or anything like, or weeds. So I'll take a photo of the boys' sand pit we got out the back, where it's literally, wash sand's just weed free, so you won't have any issue with bringing weeds in, and you can get that with an organic mix. So that's kind of why we go whitewashed, or just like a clean sand. And yeah, going early can make a big mess, obviously, because the soils are still moist, and yeah, we've had some sloppy ones as well. Yeah, so buffalo. So being buffalo, having the runners on top, if you expose it too much, you can dry them out. By having a good top dress can help protect that a little bit better, especially a whitewash. So you think of black soil compared to white sand. The black soil will heat up faster than what the white soil will. The the white sand will hold a cooler temperature, and black soil will be hot. So this is another crucial part. If you're Verti mowing in, say, December, when temperatures are getting close to 40 degrees, and you go through and well, there's two ways to think about it. If you Verti mow to dirt and you've got black soil underneath, that black soil will be a lot hotter than what it would be if the lawn was there. So you got to be very careful that you don't end up burning any new growth. So that's generally you find most contractors will stop Verti mowing over that peak heat period, just to protect the lawn and ensure that we don't have any issues with a customer's lawn singeing or wilting or on recovery. And that's why we use the whitewash again too, is just because that creates that bit of a cooling effect and allows the grass to come through a bit more protected. Damo, how you going, my friend? Okay, so that was top dressing. Yep, so we'll keep to a 70-30 mix if we're going to aerate, or if you're just going to go through a top dress just for leveling, a whitewash is fantastic, or a clean sand. With nutrition, if you're going to do it yourself, so contractors will have their own blends, and I've got a few contractors who use my blends that we use as well. And this was the fantastic part about making smaller packaging as well. So we've got a mix from Bailey's that's fantastic for renovations, and we've called it Renovate just to make it easy. This is a great mix for after a Verti mow. It will help the recovery. It's got a good initial uptake, so it's active straight away, and it gets a recovery happening straight away. And then we got another one called Energy Max, which has got humates, blood and bones. It's more of an organic fertilizer, which is great for renovations as well, and also after aerating. So you'll get good results with that. And again, if you're having a renovation and you're doing it yourself and you need any advice, you can always ask. Feel free to message Drew on that. I'm always happy to help, happy to talk. And I think, yeah, that's the best way. I think we'll try and create a bit of a kind of like a hub where we can ask those questions. And I'll put a post up on Facebook I might do that in the next day or so. I'll put a post up saying, oh, okay, who's got renovations planning? Have you got any questions? Do you need any advice? And we can kind of have a bit of an open forum there as well. Every year my back lawn looks so sweet, so I don't verti mow it. Then it looks like shit later. Not this year, my nemesis. Your back lawn I haven't seen yet. I know your front lawn looks fantastic. That's always, I think, well, when I used to do the deliveries, it used to be shoes were off, and I used to walk over your front lawn. Um, but no, I think you are nailing something there as well. So, and this is what comes back to the soil temperatures between the front and the back. The back being a little bit cooler, it can give that effect of that the lawn hasn't built up thatch, and it doesn't dry out compared to what the front does. So you can generally, your back lawn can, when you get to that peak period, your back lawn does look fantastic compared to your front sometimes, because the front's getting that full brunt of sun and the leaf is drying out a little bit where the back is a bit cooler. So it's, yeah, it's a good optic illusion there comparing back to front. I know it's the same here with we'll talk about that area where it's completely in the shade compared to what's in the sun. The lawn that's in the shade always seems to look that little bit better than what the sun area does. I'll verti mow as soon as the month has an R in it. Pretty much. And that's where I said last year was April for me. I went probably a little bit later. I like that I'm going to use the R as the RIL, but no. September, October, November, December generally is the prime time for it. Even December, we find the temperatures again. January, that's where we start and get a really heavy high temperatures. So December is probably the last month. But we just keep an eye on it. That's the big point. So that touches base on all the renovation side of things. If I've missed anything, please feel free to let me know. I'm happy to answer a few more questions, but we'll start closing up now. I think we've covered most of it all now. But yeah, anything else, please let me know. I'm going to start working on a table, and I'm going to try and work out how I can live link it to my website, so it's updated on the website, so you can click and see my soil temperatures. We'll see what rain we've had, and we'll see just a few observations from my point, and hopefully I can put notes in there on my feelings on when we start fertilizing, when we can start doing things. But the good feeling that I have at the moment is that our weather is warm enough at the moment that September is going to be the starting point this year. Last year, I was looking at the rainfall last year. And I can't find it. I've got so many links open. Last year, we had quite a lot of rain late. And I think we all recall December being quite wet as well. So November, I think we had our wettest November last year. Rain is great. And as I said, having that rain a couple of days and then the sun doesn't drop the soil temperatures as much as what it would be if we had 2 weeks of solid rain. If we had solid rain for 2 weeks, the soil temperatures are going to be a bit lower. But having that sun in between just dries everything out again and starts raising those temperatures. So even like today, a day like today where it was supposed to rain, we had rain yesterday, but now the soil profile today's had that bit of time to dry out again, and it'll dry out a little bit more tomorrow, and then we'll get wet again and by the end of the week. So it's not getting that complete sogginess. And if you do have a soggy lawn at the moment, you can use a straight penetrant or get that solid tine aeration just to help drain it a little bit more. I've got a photo before I started the stream of a paddock that's really boggy and wet, and now we're going to determine whether it's very high in organics, holding up. And this is the other issue of having lots of organics, is whether there's so much organics in the soil holding the moisture and not allowing it to drain through. So this is my job this week, is trying to ID what's going on there and help to relieve some drainage issues there. But reading a lawn is the biggest key on that point. And I try and go out weekly, just have a bit of a walk over and seeing any signs of issues. But no, thank you all for tuning in. I think we had some really good numbers today. I think got up to 15 watching at some point today, so that was fantastic. We're sitting on 11 now watching. October was wet, so October, November was really wet last year, and it really made it a hard start to the season for everybody. This year we're already looking pretty good, so yeah, enjoy this. Make the most of this weather. Like today, we're going to have a little bit of rain start of the week, but next weekend looks great again. Next weekend is going to be probably the big weekend to go out and visualize your lawns and just see and make sure it's all ready to go. And of course, if you have any plans that you are planning and you're not 100% certain, feel free to message me and I'll gladly help. So thank you all again. Thank you for tuning in on a Sunday and sharing an hour with me. I always enjoy it, and hopefully we can get back to Thursdays as well. I'd like to do Sundays periodically just to have a general chat as well. But thank you all again. I will see you all soon. And again, any questions, feel free to ask me soon. Thanks again, guys. Talk soon.